Hello and welcome to Billy Ho Sports. Last week's Derby preps were very exciting. Did pretty well with the top selection, Catching Freedom winning the Louisiana Derby. I talked about all that, showed some races in my Florida Derby preview. So go back and take a look at that one. Florida Derby's obviously coming up this week. That's a huge prep race. A lot of Derby winners coming out of there. So it's very important. It's in my Derby Trail playlist, which is available for you in that respect. So this Saturday, we also have a big $1.5 million Arkansas Derby and a field of 10, absolutely loaded. We finally get a true test for Muth. Timberlake is back to defend that Rebel Stakes win. Then you have the Southwest winner. Previous to that, Mystic Dan, who won very impressively. So this is the main event. Like I said, $1.5 million, 100 points to the winner. And like I said, also Derby Trail playlists, all that kind of stuff. Subscribe and like in the comment section. Same thing as Florida Derby. Who's your winner and why? And let's go take a look at this field. And yes, similar to my preview video for the Florida Derby, I lumped the horses together, so I'm going to be skipping around, but I will tell you the entry numbers, and so you won't have any problem, and we will be going over past performances in order so you don't lose your place. But we will start with number one. I'll take it. Moving up in class for trainer Eddie Milligan, trying to break his maiden still. So nearly got there last out, lost by just a nose, but not likely to get that maiden win here. So I'll pass. Number two, obviously Timberlake, big spotlight on him this weekend as he enters this race off the impressive win in the Rebel Stakes, where he stalked the pace and then took over down the stretch. He was on cruise control, edging clear of common defense to win it by 2. The last year's Champagne winner as well. He's looking to firmly place himself as one of the top 2 or 3 contenders in this year's Derby Trail leaderboard. So my man, trainer Brad Cox, is going to put Flavian Pratt in the saddle this time. So we'll see how he does. He should be coming in fit and ready to go. Number 3 is Dematic. That was kind of an interesting one. It is one of 3 entries from Steve Asmussen, and it is sired by Gunrunner. Christian Torres will be riding. He's one of the top jocks, if not the leading jockey at Oaklawn. Maiden breaker on February 3rd at Oaklawn, going a mile and a 16th, was pretty impressive. Then he got a lot of chatter coming into the Rebel, finished 5th. Really didn't look all that bad, but didn't look all that great either. I feel like it's going to be a repeat type of performance, but 5th place does get you a few Derby points. So he might be able to, if he can get 4th or 5th, he's going to stay right there in the mix. So not too bad. Now, also in that Rebel race is number 8 horse, Just Steel, and that's D. Wayne Lucas, trainer, wheeled back 3 weeks rest, probably a little too early on this from the Southwest to the Rebel, just didn't have it, flattened out in the stretch, finishing 2nd. So I would have thought this was probably his best Derby contender this year. Good position in the stretch in the Southwest until Mystic Dan took off down the inside and won by 8. Not as confident as I was in him a month ago, but we'll see what happens. Number 4 is a quite interesting horse, Time for Truth, trained by Ron Marquette. Won his recent allowance race at Oaklawn, mile and a 16th. That was his first time going around that far, 2 turns. Showed really great burst of speed out of the gate from the 10 post, getting to the lead. Then he settled down in 2nd, pressing the pace the whole way, took over in the stretch, and then did kind of look like he was laboring a little bit late and had enough to get across the board. So he did dip his Brisnet speed figure to an 84. Probably if he would have drew away a little better, he would have had probably a 92 at least. So I think him taking over in the stretch, they probably didn't want to press him too hard, but that was his first two-turn route race. Rafael Bejarano stays on. 20 to 1 morning line, I think, is a live long shot. Liberal Arts is the 5 horse coming in off third place finish in the Southwest Stakes at Oaklawn on February 3rd. Tyler Gaffleone has the mount, son of Arrogant. Trainer Robert Medina had to feel pretty good about how he was pretty willing down the stretch in the slop, but he didn't really have any chance to catch Mystic Dan that day. And he does have a very nice win at Churchill Downs back in October in the Street Sense. I think he'll be closing, but it might be just a little bit too much talent in the race. But I think he is definitely an underneath exotics play. So I will have him listed later on when I do my selections. So stick around. Number 9 is Mystic Dan, that winner of the Southwest Stakes, where he did come from an outside post to end up taking an inside cut down the stretch on the rail, blew by everybody to win by 8 lengths. Trainer Kenny McPeak, very excited about this one. He's going to have his work cut out for him this time around versus the top 2 elite contenders he's got, but we'll see if he's got the chops. Number 6, Informed Patriot, is the second entry, Steve Asmussen, 5th in the Sunland Derby. I'm not going to show that race. It was a pretty disappointing effort. He was the second choice. Tired down the stretch at a mile and the 16th. Appears like he's not as good as advertised, in my opinion. Top speed figure, well below this group. So I will pass. Here's our man, one of our men, the number 7 horse, Muth, coming in off a little bit of an extended layoff. Workman-like win in the San Vicente Stakes back in January at Santa Anita. Bob Baffert, trainer, had a few options to send Muth out recently, probably in the Rebel Stakes before, but passed and then just waited for this one. So obviously not eligible for the Kentucky Derby, and I've made my position well known. I think it's unfair to the trainer. I think it's unfair to really not just Bob Baffert, but like all the people that work for Bob Baffert, all the people that own horses for Bob Baffert, and those owners have explicitly said they're sticking with Bob. They're not sending their horses to other trainers this year, so they're standing by their guy, and I think that's pretty admirable to pass on a potential Kentucky Derby winner like Muth. But anyway, back to the horse. Bob's really going to be in this race just to be giving the finger to everybody by taking 100 points if he wins this race, or taking any points, because I think he's going to either get second or first or second, hit the board somewhere around there. Likely gearing Muth up for a run in the BC Classic, which will be at Del Mar in November. So Baffert has sent horses like Bodemeister, American Pharaoh, Nadal, have all won this race before. So Bob is definitely a threat with Muth. Number 10 horse is Imperial Gun, and that will round out the field. Entry 3 for Steve Asmussen, sired by Gunrunner. Broke his maiden going 8.5 furlongs at Oaklawn back in December, won that by 5. Then he made his 3-year-old debut February 24th in a 100K allowance race, going off as the 4-5 favorite, failed to win. That was the one Seize the Gray won, who was a very up-and-comer recently. So I believe he ran pretty well last weekend, if I'm not mistaken. So chasing that horse was no joke. He was just probably a little bit overvalued. So broke slowly, came from last to finish 5th, flattened out in the stretch. I still think he's probably a rung or two below on the ladder in this one. So now we are going to go over to the past performances and take a look at the field. Okay, so as mentioned previously, the number 1, I will take it. Not much to say. Poor route runner for the trainer, beaten by weaker, sharp workout, but it is what it is. Did miss by a nose. I think this is probably not the best spot for him, so I'm going to pass. Timberlake is our dude. Number 2, first in prime power. The big win, actually switching to Flavian Pratt, which is kind of interesting because Florence Giroux rode him. He's been all over the place. He's been to Ellis Park, Saratoga. Uh, that's the big A, Belmont, Santa Anita, and then won the big one at Oaklawn. So well traveled, but not yet hit the Churchill Downs surface, which is interesting. So the 97, I think he can improve on that. He was coming off the layoff from the BC Juvenile where he ran fourth. So the tune-up for this race, I think he's in prime position. I might be leaning toward him as the top choice later on in the week. Dematic, like I said, the fifth place finish. He was a bit of a value play in the Timberlake. He never really threatened. So I think he's a bit awkward. I mentioned in previous videos where he was kind of just a little bit wild in the stretch, just real green. So maybe this one it'll be his top effort. It's going to take a monster effort to get this group. But this is Time for Truth. This is the one I was talking about. Sorry about Omaha Beach. Stick around at the end. I got a stat for you on that. Rafael Bejarano, like I said, back in the saddle, won his last race, which is always a good sign. And he did only get to 84, but he ran a pretty good pace, opening +9, and then he finished second call +6. That's not terrible. He ran in the Ozark, finishing second, and then he won his maiden breaker. So he did stretch out to a 2-turn race that time. So this is going to be a real tester for him. We'll have to see how he does, but I think if he can hang on, he can get a slice. So he's definitely a usable horse. Liberal Arts also in the same boat. Southwest Streaks, he's running a bunch of grade 3s, but he's run quite well. Been off for 56 days. Is below average on the speed rating, but the 91, 92 is not terrible. I mean, if he makes a jump here, he'll be pretty good. This is the second off the layoff. Robert Medina is a hot. He's got 2 winners and a third in his 5 starts in the last 2 weeks. Tyler Gaffleon in the saddle, so solid chance closing. I think that's a good sign that he can close for a piece. Informed Patriot was one that I mentioned also. Just really didn't look good in this Sunland Derby. Smarty Jones, who ran third to Catching Freedom. I mean, it was a pretty solid field there. So he is back at Oaklawn. So maybe that changes his luck, but I'm not backing that one this time around. There's Muth. He only got a 94, but it was a pretty workmanlike effort. Rewatching that race, he did I wouldn't call it out of shape in the stretch, but he just looked, he just looks so strong. He's a good sized horse. So top 2 choice, obviously. Just Steel. This is the one I've kind of come off of just a little bit. Sired by Justify. Keith Asmussen will ride this time around. So maybe that'll change things up a little bit. But the 7th by 10 coming off the 3-week layoff, and then he's wheeling right back around again just about a month later. I don't like his chances. Here's Mystic Dan, the 101. He has had a break. He's been off 56 days, so it's not like he's wheeling back into his next race and he's eligible to bounce. I think they can avoid that. So he's definitely your 1C, if you want to call him 1A, 1B, 1C, or 1A, 1B, and then he's number 2. He's just right up there. He's listed as 4th in the prime power, but we'll round it off. Imperial Gun. Slower speed figures, optional claimer. That was the 1C's, the gray one. Maximus Magic. I mean, there were some decent horses. Footprint in there, but outside post for an early speed, I don't think he's fast enough, so he'll struggle. So, rounding out the show, Arkansas Derby has produced some strong Derby contenders, like last year. Angel of Empire was a pretty strong contender, just didn't get it done. But really just American Pharaoh as far back as I could look. If you have to go all the way back to the early 2000s for a Fleet Alex to get a Derby winner coming out of the Arkansas Derby. So 2015 is almost 10 years ago. So in the past 18 years or something like that, it has been no bueno for the contender. They've been good contenders. Don't get me wrong. And not all of them have made the Kentucky Derby. So there's that too. But it was tough, pretty tough for me to choose between Timberlake and Muth. But I am leaning more toward Timberlake. Brad Cox is a local trainer here in where I'm from. He is my favorite trainer. So I'll probably lean his way. Then he's got Muth right in there. I'm also, I think you got to include Mystic Dan. He's better than most every other horse, but those two. Time for Truth is the interesting one. Liberal Arts will also be there as you can see my selections. But this is the nugget I want to leave you with. Time for Truth, sired by Omaha Beach, won this race back in 2019, nearly going wire to wire. So if you watch that race replay, you saw how fast he got out. The question will remain: will he move forward from that, and can he get the extra 16th of a mile? That's the question. So I'm not leaving him out. And that will do it for the preview for the Arkansas Derby. Be on the lookout for more content. I'm going to try to get some of these fillies out this week. We got filly races in both Gulfstream and Oaklawn. So until next time, I appreciate you all watching, and we'll see you soon.